video is going to be very hard for me because what I'm trying to do is summarize all Celibidache's theory and the phenomenology. Um, First of all, I want to say something, and what I want to say is that I like to keep myself open to different things, different ways of seeing things, because I personally and firmly believe that there are different ways to come to the final truth, and I totally disagree with those people who think that what they believe in is somehow the gospel truth, and you are either you are with them or you are against them. Well, I really don't like this way of thinking, and I personally believe that this theory of Celibidache, this phenomenology, is a very, very intelligent and very important theory to get into music, to go deeper in the knowledge of music. And I think that many musicians should try to approach this theory, but I cannot just say this is the gospel. This is not the way I like to do it. And besides that, there's, for instance, just a small example. Nowadays, some people are studying the idea of consonance and dissonance, and they are discussing the theories of Helmholtz, who defined the idea of consonance and dissonance, and they are changing the concept of consonance and dissonance. So, physics always evolves. So we cannot just, remain stuck in there, this is truth, and everyone else is wrong. So, okay, this was the starting point, but now get into this summary and the video. So, first of all, a very important statement of Celibidache is that sound has a double belonging. It belongs, of course, to humans because it depends on a human will. I mean, I produce a sound because I want to, and so I have a vibrating string or whatever. But the sound also belongs to cosmos, to nature, because nature, after all, is vibrations. The smallest portion of the matter is vibrating strings, So it somehow, when we produce a sound, we kind of take it out of where it belongs. We use it, and when it dissolves, well, it goes back to where it belongs. So it's a kind of a double belonging, and this is a very important idea, as we will see in the next things that I'm going to tell, because physical laws are the very starting point for Celibidache's analysis. And so the sound, has its own laws, and they are physical laws. And of course we know that these physical laws are not subjective. They are there. Even if we don't know them, we can ignore those laws, but they are there. And so we are talking about basically the first most important phenomenon, which is the harmonic series. And we know that, as we've seen in the former videos, that the harmonic series has its own laws. The balance among the notes. There's a stronger note, and there's a kind of gravity among them, and so they are just physically there, and this is the very starting point. And one important thing is to consider that the harmonics are not just there in just in zero time. They need a little bit of time to come alive. There's the idea of the transients. So it's let's say a chronological phenomenon, okay? Because you need time to get them. And so the basic essence of music, and this is the first important step to get into phenomenology, the basic essence of music is the relationship between sound, of course, with this idea of chronological development, and the human affective world inside of us. What's that? Well, this looks like only philosophy, but actually it's not. Because what does affective world means? Well, we have to think that when we come to know something, anything in our life, we spontaneously relate this thing with what we had and we knew before and what we expect for the future. So somehow what happens in the now, in the present, is always related for us with the past and with the future. Without this polyvalent relation, we could not know anything, okay? So this is very important too to understand, because when we assimilate something, we have to reduce. This is the philosophical word used in phenomenology. And what does that mean? Well, it means that when something is complex, is made by several elements, several parts, we absolutely need, and we do it spontaneously, to find nexuses among those elements, to reduce them to one, and then we can make a relation between us and that complex phenomena, because we are one, and as a unity we can know another unity. We cannot know a multiplicity. Just a very quick example: if you have two events, okay, and of course they are connected together. So let's take the musical example of two notes, okay, the interval. Of course, if we have two and we have to connect them, we are not just assimilating the first and the second. We are assimilating the interaction between them. Let's say, okay, so what we need to do to get the unity, the whole thing, is just connecting this to that. And to do that, I need a certain continuity. I've been talking about that in a former video. If we just break them apart, like, okay, it's very hard for us to make the connection. And so we hardly get the phenomenon together. But as well, if we just do them too fast, like, it's again very hard for us to find the connection. But if we find the right way, okay, now I can really get the first, the second element, and I can just find the relation and the nexus between them. So this is the way to do it. And what conditions allow us to have this clear connection? Well, of course, the speed, let's say tempo, because as I've shown you, too slow or too fast is not working. But we have to find the right tempo, and also in music, several other things like phrasing, first of all, and dynamics, for instance. So this is the way to do it. And so when we come to know something which is in the now, in the present, it immediately becomes the past. And when we come to know another element, which is the present, it immediately relates with the past. This is what we do without thinking, without even knowing. We do that. So when I play Do, so Do is the present now. Now, Do is the past and Sol is the present. And my mind is connecting them, finding the way to put them together in order to assimilate. This is the way we do it. And of course, back to physical laws, because as I said, they are the very basic thing for all phenomenology. The physical laws allow the tension of a musical piece to move, to increase and to decrease. And we know that in a musical piece, tension is always there, is always moving somewhere, is going up or is going down. But we know that is there, even when we have the pianissimo, softest passages, almost inaudible passages. Well, tension is always, developing there. And of course, tension is going up with complex movements like, up and down, up and down, up and down, but it's increasing, okay, in the whole, and it's reaching a peak, the peak point of tension, and after that peak, always with complex movements like up and down, up and down, up and down, it's decreasing to the very end of the piece. So, tension shapes the piece. And of course, these complex movements that I was talking about are, of course, the impulse and resolution. Impulse and resolution, or if you prefer, you can use synonyms like extroversion and introversion, or you can say tension and relaxation is of the same. And these things are very natural for us because they are in us. Just think of breathing. You inhale, and this is tension, and you exhale, and this is relaxation. So it's totally natural for us to find this structure also in complex events like music and sound, for instance. And so, as I said, the tension shapes the piece. And how? In what ways? Of course, in the three only possible ways that we have to appropriate, to know all the material that we come to know, because we have the three possibilities, which are the alla breve, impulse and resolution. We have the triangle, which is one impulse followed by two resolutions, and the cross, which is one impulse followed by three resolutions. And we know that the second resolution is a little more than the first and the third resolution. But these are the three possible ways by which we structure, okay, the material. And so this is how tension structure and shapes every piece. And this is very interesting because Celibidache used to criticize all the theory of forms, musical forms, talking about whatever the forma sonata, the rondo, the ABA, the fugue, okay, whatever you can think of, because he used to say every musical piece is shaped by tension. And so one of the three, you can have alla breve, you can have triangle, you can have cross. If you look carefully to the development of tension in a piece, you will find that the real form is one of those three. It doesn't matter really. I explained in a former video about the forma sonata. It doesn't matter that the forma sonata is divided in three parts, as we all know, which is the exposition, the development, and the reprise. And so we think it's a triangle. No, because it depends on the tension. And as I showed you in that video, Celibidache said that the forma sonata, for instance, can have three possible shapes. Can be alla breve, can be triangle, and can be cross. But it depends on where you find the peak point and, of course, how the tension shapes the whole piece. And there's another interesting aspect. Celibidache also used to be critic towards the atonality, and specifically to the second school of Vienna. And so, of course, Arnold Schoenberg and his very talented pupils and students, not because he considered Schoenberg a person who, wasn't talented or wasn't a genius in his own way, but because Celibidache said, starting, remember, from the physical laws, right? He said, this idea of 12 tones, and as we know in the atonal series, right? This idea of 12 tones, completely independent one from the other, they are totally apart one from the other. They have each one the same dignity, the same importance. I have to play them only once without repeating, and this is the series, and then you can just invert it and go on with all the dodecaphonic style of music. And he says, well, it's an incredibly smart and nice way of thinking of composing music, but it's simply not true. Because in that series, just simply starting from one note, as we have seen, and then it is followed by a second note, well, we immediately fix the first note as a, center for us. Because we have to find a point, and moving from that point, we came to know the first note, which becomes the past, and now the second note, which is the present, it's relating to the first note. So just at the very beginning of the series, we already have a certain orientation. It is impossible to say that they are completely independent. They are not independent. Physically, they are not independent. So we perceive them as one connected to the other. And then, of course, following in the next notes of the series, well, of course, you also find, for instance, a tonal center. Because if you find the fifths, or if you find the fourths, and so on. So he's just saying it is not true. It is not possible saying that a certain series of sounds and notes are just one apart from the other. We cannot perceive them like that. We have to make those connections, and we do them even without knowing anything about phenomenology and about physics and about anything. We just do them. So it is not true. And besides this, I don't want to get into the atonal, style of music, but Schoenberg himself made some, let's say, corrections, okay, to his own style, because we know that when in the series we had a very low note, for instance, he understood that that low note was prevalent among all the others. And so, in the development of the piece, he said that that low note should be played a little less until the upper notes were repeated more than once, so to, create a balance between a lower note, which had, richer sound, more harmonics that we could hear, and the upper notes, which of course had less harmonics that we could hear. And so even Schoenberg himself somehow recognized that there are some physical influences in the series. And so this is the main reason why Celibidache was criticizing the atonality and the dodecaphonic series. So, we came already to almost to the end, because we have seen that music, after all, if we ask ourselves, what is music? Is music a language? This is a very common question nowadays. Is music a language we can use to express, etc.? Well, the answer should be no. And not only Celibidache said no, but also other important musicians, like for instance Leonard Bernstein, answered no to the question, but he didn't follow phenomenology, at least I don't think so. We have no evidence of that. But he was also convinced of, you know, the importance of tonal music, and he wrote himself tonal music all his life. And he said music is not a language because sounds cannot say anything after all. If we link music with images, you know, and atmospheres and feelings, etc., this is just something that comes from the outside. For instance, I can think of the symphonic poem with a text that you read before listening to the music. Or I can think of very imaginative titles. Think of the Beethoven Sixth Symphony, or of course other impressionistic music, etc. Or I can think of music, movie music, film music. Well, of course, we can see the images of the film, and so we are inspired by those images. But if we just think and hear of something like, I don't know, G, C, D, A, G, C, actually, this says nothing at all about the real world. It doesn't talk about nature, about a door, about a picture, about anything actually. It's just a relation among certain physical events, sounds in this case, vibrations. So to the question, is music a language? We should answer no. And so what is music after all? This is a very hard question, and Celibidache himself said, it's hard to find an answer because music transcends the matter. It transcends, it goes beyond, in a way. Certainly music is not simply sounds. We cannot say that if we produce sounds, then automatically we have music. This is not music. Because to have music, in order to have music, we have to go back to those laws, and we have to find the nexuses between one sound and the next, one sound and the next. And when we can create this continuity, we can have the reduction to unity, and that is the experience that we have, and that is really music, because then when we come to know that unity, we transcend the vibrations, we transcend even the tension, etc., and we go beyond. This is the point. So music must be something to achieve and not something that is simply given to us. This is the idea. And so I think that in the end, the ultimate reason and the ultimate, let's say, way of considering phenomenology is that what a musician should do when he looks at a piece of music, he should try, as a first thing, to analyze the score and the music from the tension point of view. Looking at it, finding all the physical laws that are influencing the piece, and they are not depending to the subjectivity of anyone. This is the reason why Celibidache used to say, we cannot interpret anything. There's a certain part of music which is objective, and that is the analysis of tension. It goes up, it goes down, it resolves, then it reaches the peak, then again goes down, and there's the introversion, the extroversion. That is the objective analysis that you should do to see where it goes. When you did that, then comes the subjective part, the real interpretation of the piece. Because now you know that the tension goes up here and down here, and you can decide, I want to go up this way, that fast, with more intensity, less intensity, etc., etc. And then I go down my way, which is different from anyone else's way, because I make a certain decision, a certain stylistic decision, we can say. But we are not saying, here I think that we have tension, and the other guy says, no, 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 this for me is not tension at all. This is the tension disappearing and going down. So how is it possible that in the same piece, one person says the tension goes up, and the other person says in the same place the tension goes down? This is something, there must be something wrong in this. We have to find the way to recognize where the objective parts are, and when we recognize it, we can use our personality and our subjectivity to make our personal choices. I think that this is, in the end, what really Celibidache wanted to achieve with phenomenology.